Have you ever had a secret that felt so big it could change everything? Imagine keeping that secret for years, only to have it suddenly uncovered in a way that leaves everyone shocked. That is exactly what happened when a routine check at the palace revealed something no one expected. This is a story about secrets, betrayal, and a family torn apart. So picture this, everything is finally set up and ready to go. The only way they can make this work is if Prince Harry gets involved, because without him, no one would even care about Meghan Markle. The whole thing comes out of nowhere. Palace investigators stumble upon a bank account that Meghan Markle had been hiding for years. As soon as they see the transactions, red flags start popping up everywhere. King Charles and Prince William realize they have to stop protecting her. The things they find in that account are way more serious than just simple money mistakes. Once all the facts come out, they make a choice that no one sees coming. It all starts with a regular audit that turns out to be anything but ordinary. The finance office at Buckingham Palace is all about careful rules and precision that have been around for centuries. They track every single pound that the royal family spends. Most years, the audit is just another boring task. But in early December 2025, something catches their eye. A senior accountant named Margaret Hartley, who has been working there for nearly 20 years, knows the system inside and out. She can spot when something is off. While she is reviewing the accounts for Harry and Meghan from before they step back, she notices little things that do not add up. Some payments are a bit weird, and there are expenses that do not match any official events. Another accountant might have brushed it off as a simple mistake, but Margaret knows that tiny inconsistencies can sometimes point to bigger problems. So she spends 3 days digging through the records, matching up payment dates with public schedules, and comparing invoices to real events. The more she looks, the more worried she gets. The money is moving in ways that just do not make sense for normal operations. She takes her findings to Thomas Blackwell, the guy who has managed royal money through 3 different kings. When he sees what she has found, his face changes completely, and he knows they have to escalate this right away. Within just a few hours, the news reaches Sir Clive Alderton, the king's private secretary. He knows that any hint of money problems could blow up into a huge disaster. If people even suspect something improper, it would trigger a media frenzy and questions from Parliament. So he orders a full investigation, but very quietly. He puts together a small team with Margaret and Thomas from finance, along with 2 senior lawyers and a private investigator who knows all about financial crimes. They get strict orders: no leaks, no gossip, and no talking to anyone outside the team. The matter has to stay completely secret. For the rest of December, the team works nonstop, looking at bank statements, wire transfers, contracts, and expense reports. Hidden in all that paperwork, they find something that should not be there: payments going to a consulting firm that no one has ever heard of. The amounts seem way too high for just regular public relations work. The lead investigator, Sarah Chen, starts digging into this mysterious firm. Its corporate records show it is registered in Delaware, which is known for having laws that protect business privacy. The company has almost no online presence, no website, no social media, which is a huge red flag. Then, when they get the firm's bank records, they are shocked to see that the money from the Sussex household does not stay there. It is immediately transferred to an offshore account in the Channel Islands. The investigation team ends up working through Christmas, all in total secrecy. They follow the money across multiple countries, building timelines that show exactly when and why the money moved. What they find is deeply troubling. That offshore account was opened in early 2019, not long after Meghan and Harry got married. Money starts flowing into it almost right away, hundreds of thousands of pounds over time, which raises some serious questions. The most disturbing part is the timing. The biggest deposits happen right after major royal events, important family gatherings, state occasions, and private meetings that later end up in the media. The pattern is just too consistent to ignore. It looks like someone with inside access to the royal family is making money off that access. In early January 2026, Sarah Chen presents her findings to Sir Clive: the hidden offshore account, the pattern of payments, and the suspicious timing. While she cannot prove anything illegal, the whole arrangement breaks every rule about how royal family members should handle their money. Sir Clive asks the question on everyone's mind: who controls the offshore account? The answer leads back to Meghan Markle. The account was set up shortly after she joined the royal family, and the consulting firm is run by someone who had previous connections to her. Sir Clive knows he has to tell the king immediately, and after that, Prince William needs to know too. What they have uncovered is not just a financial scandal. It is proof that someone inside the royal family has been using their position for money, which goes against everything the institution stands for. Now let's talk about that secret account no one knew existed. The offshore account was in a bank in Jersey, one of those places rich people use for financial privacy. It looked like thousands of other accounts, perfectly legal and protected by laws that keep clients' information private. But when the palace investigators started digging, they found something much more complicated than a simple savings account. The account was opened in March 2019, and that timing is important. Meghan had been a working royal for less than a year at that point. She was still learning the rules, figuring out her role, and building her public image. But even then, someone connected to her was setting up this sophisticated financial setup that would take investigators months to understand. The account was not even in Meghan's name, because that would be too obvious. Instead, it was held by a company registered in the British Virgin Islands. That company was owned by another company in Delaware, and that Delaware company was managed by a trust in Switzerland. Each layer made it harder to trace ownership and provided what lawyers call plausible deniability. But the palace investigators had resources and determination. They worked with financial experts who specialize in untangling complex corporate structures and got court orders to force banks to reveal normally secret information. Slowly, they traced the ownership chain all the way back to its source. The person who ultimately controlled the account had direct ties to Meghan Markle. The structure was so sophisticated that it had to have professional help. Someone designed it specifically to hide ownership while keeping access. Someone knew exactly how to navigate international banking laws and which jurisdictions to use. This was not something an ordinary person could set up alone. Money came into the account from lots of different places. Some came through the consulting firm that was billing the Sussex household, but other deposits came from entertainment companies in Los Angeles, production firms that worked in TV and film, and media organizations covering celebrity news. The amounts varied but were always substantial. £10,000 here, £25,000 there, sometimes £50,000 in a single transaction. What really made investigators suspicious was the timing of these deposits. They came in clusters, with several payments arriving within days of each other, followed by weeks of nothing. And those clusters often coincided with major royal events or family moments that later became media stories. For example, a large payment came 3 days after a private family meeting at Sandringham. Another big deposit showed up shortly after a state banquet, where Meghan was photographed with several heads of state. The pattern suggested coordination. Someone was providing information or access, and someone else was paying for it. The entertainment and media companies making these deposits were not random either. Several had produced content about the royal family, and others had connections to journalists who covered palace news. The web of relationships pointed toward a disturbing possibility. Royal access was being turned into cash. The account also showed money going out, not just sitting there. Some transfers went to accounts in the United States, others flowed to property investments in California. The spending pattern suggested someone was quietly building wealth, spreading assets across different locations and investment types. The palace legal advisors reviewed all the evidence carefully. They knew that proving wrongdoing would be tough because offshore accounts are legal, receiving payments is legal, and even having complex corporate structures is legal. But the whole arrangement completely broke royal protocols. Members of the royal family are just not supposed to profit from their positions, monetize access to family members or inside information, or hide financial arrangements from palace officials. Sir Clive looked at the evidence spread across his desk: bank statements, corporate documents, transaction records. The account nobody knew existed had revealed a secret world that threatened everything the monarchy stands for. Prince William learns about all this on a cold January morning at Kensington Palace. Sir Clive arrives without warning, carrying a leather briefcase full of documents that William is not prepared to see. At first, William thinks it is just a routine briefing, but he can tell from Sir Clive's face that something serious is going on. Sir Clive lays out the evidence step by step: the hidden offshore account, the suspicious timing of payments, the corporate structures designed to hide ownership, and the connections back to Meghan. William listens in total silence, his jaw getting tighter with every new detail. He had suspected for years that Meghan's motives were not what they seemed, but this was way worse than he ever imagined. From the beginning, William never fully trusted Meghan. Something about her always felt calculated, like the way she performed for cameras, positioned herself in photos, and seemed to understand media manipulation better than people born into royal life. He had tried to warn Harry before the wedding, suggesting a longer engagement and more time to really get to know each other. But Harry got angry, accusing William of jealousy and prejudice. That conversation damaged their relationship in ways that never fully healed. Harry chose Meghan over his family's advice, over caution, over everything William offered. and William stepped back, hoping he was wrong, hoping time would prove his concerns unfounded. Now, sitting across from Sir Clive with evidence of financial misconduct spread out before him, William feels a bitter vindication he did not even want. The evidence suggests Meghan had been monetizing her royal position almost from the moment she got it. She built a secret financial structure while smiling for cameras and talking about service. She accepted payments from entertainment companies while attending state functions. She turned access to the royal family into a commodity. And she did it all while Harry remained apparently clueless. William asked Sir Clive the tough questions. Was Harry involved? Did he know about the account? The investigation found no evidence of Harry's participation. His name did not appear anywhere in the corporate structures, and no payments went to accounts he controlled. He seemed genuinely unaware of what his wife was doing, which made everything even more painful. Harry had sacrificed his relationship with his family to protect Meghan, not knowing she was betraying the institution he was born into. William wants to confront Meghan immediately, demand answers, and force her to explain herself. But Sir Clive advises patience. They need to inform King Charles first. This decision cannot be made by William alone, no matter how he feels personally. The king needs to understand the full scope of what has been discovered. William agrees, even though anger burns in his chest. He thinks about all the family gatherings where Meghan sat across from him, smiling and chatting. He thinks about christenings, weddings, and formal events where she played the role of devoted duchess. All of it was a performance. All of it was cover for something darker. He also thinks about Harry, his brother, the person he protected throughout childhood and stood beside through their mother's death and the painful years that followed. Harry is about to learn that his wife was using their family for money, and the truth is going to destroy him. The forensic accountants work like surgeons, knowing that in complex financial investigations, every single detail matters. A single transaction can unlock an entire network. A date can reveal a pattern. A name can connect seemingly unrelated payments. They approach the offshore account like archaeologists digging up an ancient site, carefully brushing away layers to uncover what is hidden below. The team organizes every transaction in chronological order, building spreadsheets that show money coming in and money going out. They color code sources, tag dates, and cross reference amounts. What emerges is a financial map that tells a story more clearly than any witness ever could. The earliest deposit into the account arrives in April 2019, £20,000 from a Lowe's Angels production company called Westridge Media. This company specializes in celebrity documentaries and reality TV. On the surface, the payment looks normal because entertainment companies pay for consulting services all the time. But when investigators dig deeper into Westridge Media's history, they find that before this payment, the company had produced only one project, a short documentary about minor celebrities that nobody really watched. After the payment, Westridge suddenly gets access to produce content featuring former royal staff members, people who worked at Kensington Palace during Meghan's time, people with stories to tell about life behind palace walls. The connection is impossible to ignore. More payments follow over the months. A deposit of £15,000 comes from a British tabloid's parent company just days after a private family dinner at Windsor Castle. That same week, the tabloid publishes an exclusive story about tensions between Meghan and Catherine, with details that only someone present at the dinner could have known. The timing is too precise to be a coincidence. Another significant payment arrives in June 2019, £35,000 from an American PR firm. 2 weeks later, several positive profiles of Meghan appear in major magazines, all using similar language and focusing on the same talking points. The articles praise her modernizing influence on the monarchy and her commitment to progressive causes. The coordination suggests a paid campaign, not organic coverage. Investigators find payments linked to specific royal events. £5,000 arrives the day after Meghan attends a state banquet with visiting dignitaries. That payment comes from a company that publishes celebrity gossip online, and soon after, that company releases detailed information about private conversations at the banquet, including who sat where and what was discussed, info that should have stayed confidential. Perhaps most disturbing are payments linked to family photos. The royal family takes private pictures at christenings, weddings, and holiday gatherings, meant only for family members. Yet several end up published in magazines or on websites. Each time a private photo leaks, investigators find a payment into Meghan's account within days, ranging from £10,000 to £25,000 depending on how exclusive the image is. The money going out of the account tells another story. It flows primarily to American investments, real estate in California, stock portfolios managed by New York firms, and business ventures in entertainment. Meghan is building a financial foundation separate from Harry and separate from the royal family, using money that appears to come from monetizing her position. One transaction especially catches the investigators' attention: a payment of £50,000 to a Lowe's Angels law firm. The date of that payment matches exactly when Meghan and Harry were negotiating their exit from royal duties. That law firm specializes in entertainment contracts and media rights. It looks like Meghan was planning her departure while still actively working as a royal, using money obtained through questionable means to fund her exit strategy. The money trail paints a clear picture. Meghan systematically monetized access, information, and influence from the moment she entered the royal family. She built a hidden financial empire while playing the role of devoted duchess, and she did it with a sophistication that suggests careful planning, not just a few mistakes. The emergency meeting happens in the most secure room at Buckingham Palace. Present are King Charles's most trusted advisors, senior legal counsel, and the head of palace communications. Everyone understands how serious this is. This is not a scandal they can handle with careful statements and strategic silence. It is existential. Sir Clive presents the evidence calmly, but his words carry devastating weight. A member of the royal family appears to have been selling access and information for years. The amounts total hundreds of thousands of pounds, and the sophistication of the operation suggests deliberate planning. The legal advisors speak first, pointing out that stripping a royal title is not a simple administrative action. It involves navigating constitutional territory that has rarely been tested in modern times. There are questions of jurisdiction, due process, and what evidence is legally enough to justify such a drastic step. One advisor warns that Meghan could challenge the decision in court, turning a private matter into a huge public legal battle. The communications team offers an equally grim outlook. If the palace moves against Meghan, she will fight back with everything she has. She has proven she is skilled at manipulating public opinion and has media connections and public sympathy, especially in America, where many see her as a victim of royal bigotry and rigid tradition. Any action against her could be framed as persecution, no matter what the evidence says. But doing nothing also carries huge risks. If the hidden account becomes public through leaks or investigative journalism, the palace would look like they are covering up financial misconduct. MPs would demand investigations, the press would question whether public funds had been misused, and the monarchy's already fragile public support could collapse. One advisor suggests a middle ground: quiet negotiation with Meghan, present the evidence privately, and demand she return the money. In exchange, the matter stays sealed, and she agrees never to use royal titles for commercial gain, while the palace does not pursue criminal charges or public exposure. But William, invited to the meeting by his father, rejects this immediately. He argues that negotiating with Meghan would give her leverage to demand concessions. She could threat to go public with her own accusations, claim bigotry or abuse, and turn herself into a martyr while painting the family as villains. Appeasement would fail because Meghan has already proven she does not care about family loyalty or institutional integrity. Another concern haunts the room. What about Harry? If the palace strips Meghan's titles, they would be publicly declaring her guilty of serious misconduct. Harry would have to choose between his wife and his family yet again, and most people believe he would choose Meghan, which means losing him completely. The rift that already exists would become permanent and irreparable. King Charles stays silent through most of the discussion, but then he speaks. He acknowledges the pain this will cause Harry, the public relations nightmare, and every argument for caution and compromise. But then he says something that shifts the energy in the room. The monarchy survived not because of its power, but because of its principles. For centuries, the institution has claimed to represent duty, service, and honor above personal gain. If they allow someone to monetize royal access without consequences, they betray everything they stand for. The institution would become a fraud, and once people believe it is a fraud, no amount of careful management can save it. The evidence is overwhelming, the behavior is indefensible, and regardless of the personal cost or political fallout, some lines cannot be crossed without a response. Meghan crossed that line repeatedly and deliberately. The meeting ends with a consensus. King Charles will review the evidence personally and make the final decision, but everyone in that room understands which direction he is leaning. The palace's impossible position is about to become a definitive choice. King Charles spends 3 days alone with the evidence. He dismisses his staff, cancels his appointments, and locks himself in his private study at Clarence House. The documents cover his desk in neat stacks: bank statements, corporate filings, transaction records. Each page represents another betrayal of trust, another violation of the principles he has spent his life upholding. He reads everything multiple times, hoping to find an explanation that makes this less damaging. Maybe Meghan was poorly advised. Maybe she did not understand the rules. Maybe there is context that changes the meaning of what looks like calculated misconduct. But the more he reads, the less plausible those explanations become. The sophistication of the financial arrangements proves this is not ignorance or innocent error. Someone deliberately constructed layers of corporate entities to hide ownership, timed payments to coincide with royal events, and monetized access to private family moments and confidential information. That someone appears to be his daughter-in-law. Charles thinks about Harry constantly during those 3 days. His younger son has always been vulnerable, always searching for belonging after losing his mother so young. Meghan offered Harry something he desperately wanted: a partner who seemed to understand him and promised to build a life away from the suffocating expectations of royal duty. Harry chose that promise over his family's concerns. Now Charles has to tell Harry that the woman he loves, the mother of his children, has been using the family for financial gain. The conversation will destroy whatever fragile connection still exists between father and son. Harry will defend Meghan, refuse to believe the evidence, and accuse the family of persecution. The rift will become permanent. But Charles also thinks about William, his heir, the future of the monarchy. William warned them all about Meghan before the wedding. He saw something others missed or chose to ignore. William has been proven right, and now he is watching to see if his father has the strength to act on that truth. Beyond family dynamics, Charles wrestles with institutional responsibility. He has waited his whole life to become king, endured decades of criticism, personal scandal, and public mockery, and rebuilt his reputation through dedication to charitable work and environmental causes. He finally ascended to the throne with a genuine desire to modernize the monarchy while preserving its dignity. If he fails to act now, all that effort is undermined. The message would be clear: royal titles can be used for personal enrichment without consequences. The institution would be exposed as protecting its own no matter what they do, and public trust, already fragile, would evaporate completely. Charles consults constitutional experts about the legal mechanisms for removing titles. The process is complex but possible. He has the authority as sovereign to request Parliament to strip titles through an act of Parliament, or he can issue a letters patent removing them through royal prerogative. Either path will be public and controversial, but both are legally sound. He also consults privately with the Archbishop of Canterbury, not about law, but about conscience. Is it right to publicly humiliate Meghan even if her actions warrant punishment? Is there a way to act with justice while showing mercy? The Archbishop reminds him that mercy without accountability is not truly merciful. It enables continued wrongdoing and harms others. On the fourth day, Charles emerges from his study. He calls Sir Clive and gives clear instructions. Meghan's titles will be formally removed. But before any public announcement, Harry will be informed privately. He deserves to hear this from his father, not from a palace statement. Charles will write to Harry personally, explain the evidence, express love for his son even while taking action against his son's wife, and offer Harry a choice: stand with Meghan and accept permanent distance from the family, or acknowledge the truth and begin rebuilding trust. The decision is made. Now comes the harder part: living with the consequences. King Charles writes the letter by hand, sitting at his desk with a fountain pen and royal stationery, choosing his words with the care of someone who knows this might be the last meaningful communication he ever has with his younger son. The letter takes hours to compose. Multiple drafts are started and discarded before he finds the right balance between honesty and compassion. It begins with an expression of love, writing that no matter what happens, Harry will always be his son, and nothing can change the bond between father and child, even when that bond is tested by impossible circumstances. He writes about memories from Harry's childhood, moments of joy that had nothing to do with duty or institution, just a father and son being together. Then Charles shifts to the painful present. He explains that palace investigators discovered serious financial irregularities connected to Meghan. He does not soften the language or hide behind euphemisms. He describes the offshore account, the suspicious payments, and the timing that correlated with royal events. He explains that the evidence points to a systematic monetization of royal access and information. Charles writes that he understands how difficult this will be for Harry to accept. He acknowledges that Harry loves Meghan, they have built a life together, and they share children. He is not asking Harry to stop loving his wife, but he is asking Harry to look at the evidence objectively and understand why action has to be taken. The letter explains the decision clearly. Meghan's royal titles will be formally removed. She will no longer be able to use the style of Duchess or Her Royal Highness. The action is not personal vindictiveness, but institutional necessity. The monarchy cannot allow its members to profit from their positions without facing consequences. Charles offers Harry a choice. He can stand by Meghan and accept that this will create permanent distance from the royal family, or he can acknowledge what his wife has done, work with the family to address it, and begin the slow process of rebuilding trust. Neither option is easy, but both are available. The letter ends with another expression of love. Charles writes that he will always be Harry's father, always available if Harry wants to talk, always hoping for eventual reconciliation. But he also makes clear that this decision is final. The evidence is overwhelming, and the institution requires protection. Charles seals the letter personally and arranges for it to be delivered by diplomatic courier to Harry's home in California. He specifies that it must be placed directly into Harry's hands, not given to staff or left at the security gate. Harry deserves to receive this news privately, with time to process it before anyone else gets involved. The letter arrives at Harry's house on a Tuesday afternoon. Security calls Harry to the gate where the courier is waiting. Harry signs for the envelope, recognizes his father's handwriting immediately, and feels his stomach drop. Good news does not arrive by courier in sealed envelopes marked private and confidential. Harry reads the letter in his office with the door closed. As he goes through the pages, his expression changes from confusion to disbelief to anger. He reads certain passages multiple times, searching for any misunderstanding, but the words are clear. His father is accusing Meghan of financial misconduct. His father is stripping her titles. His father is asking him to choose between his wife and his family. Harry's hands shake as he finishes reading. He immediately calls his father's private number, but it goes to voicemail. He calls again voicemail. He sends a text demanding an immediate conversation. No response comes. Finally, hours later, Charles calls back. The conversation lasts less than 10 minutes. Harry shouts that this is persecution. Charles stays calm, stating the evidence is conclusive. Harry accuses the family of bigotry and jealousy. Charles says this is about documented financial impropriety, not personal feelings. Harry demands the investigation be stopped. Charles says it is already complete and the decision is made. The call ends with Harry saying words he will later regret. He tells his father that he is choosing Meghan, that he will stand by her no matter what lies the palace invents, and that Charles has lost both his sons now. Then Harry hangs up. The connection between father and son is severed. The palace schedules the announcement for 10:00 on a Thursday morning. The timing is deliberate, early enough to dominate the day's news cycle, late enough to ensure all major media outlets are fully staffed. The communications team has spent days crafting the statement, revising every word to balance transparency with legal caution. The statement is released simultaneously across all official palace channels, the royal website, social media accounts, and direct transmission to accredited journalists. Within seconds, phones start ringing in newsrooms all over the world. Editors shout instructions. Producers scramble to interrupt regular programming. The biggest royal story in years is breaking, and everyone wants to be first with the details. The statement is brief but devastating. Confirms that following a comprehensive financial review, serious concerns have been identified regarding the conduct of the Duchess of Sussex during her time as a working member of the royal family. The statement notes that these concerns relate to financial arrangements that violated established protocols governing how members of the royal family conduct themselves. The palace announces that His Majesty the King has made the decision to remove the royal titles and styles previously held by the Duchess. Effective immediately, she will no longer use the title Her Royal Highness or be referred to as the Duchess of Sussex. The statement emphasizes that this decision was made after careful consideration of substantial evidence and in consultation with senior advisors. Critically, the statement avoids specific accusations. It does not mention the offshore account, detail the payments, or name the companies involved. Legal counsel has been clear. Specific allegations could trigger defamation lawsuits. The statement needs to be serious enough to justify the unprecedented action, while vague enough to avoid legal vulnerability. The final paragraph expresses regret that these circumstances have arisen, states that the royal family remains committed to upholding the highest standards of integrity, and notes that difficult decisions are sometimes necessary to protect the institution. The statement says no further comment will be provided at this time. The media reaction is instantaneous and explosive. Within minutes, every major news outlet is running breaking news alerts. Television networks interrupt regular programming. News anchors struggle to keep their composure while reading the unprecedented announcement. Royal correspondents who have covered the family for decades say they have never seen anything like this. Social media platforms erupt with hashtags both supporting and condemning the decision trending simultaneously. People who always defended Meghan call it racist persecution, while others say the palace has finally shown backbone after years of tolerance. Arguments break out in comment sections, and families debate across dinner tables. The announcement divides opinion instantly and completely. Within an hour, the palace communications office is completely overwhelmed. Hundreds of media requests flood in, and journalists demand interviews, background briefings, and access to officials who can provide context. All requests are declined. The statement is final, and the palace will not elaborate. Foreign media picks up the story with particular intensity. American networks devote entire segments to analyzing what happened, with commentators debating whether this proves the royal family is practicing bigotry or whether Meghan genuinely committed serious misconduct. European outlets examine the constitutional implications. The story dominates international headlines in a way few royal announcements ever achieve. Financial markets even react, with British tourism stocks briefly dipping on concerns about damage to the monarchy's reputation. Betting companies offering odds on royal family matters suspend their services, unsure how to price this unprecedented situation. But the loudest silence comes from California. Harry and Meghan's representatives issue no immediate response. Their social media accounts remain quiet. The house in Montecito appears undisturbed from the outside, though security presence has visibly increased. Journalists camp outside the gates, waiting for any sign of reaction. Inside the palace, staff monitor the situation carefully. They had prepared for outrage, accusations, and media chaos, but they had not fully prepared for the waiting. The silence from Meghan and Harry feels ominous, like a storm gathering strength before it strikes. And everyone knows the storm is coming. The response comes 36 hours after the palace announcement, long enough to craft a strategic message and coordinate with lawyers and publicists. When Meghan finally speaks, she does so through carefully chosen channels designed for maximum impact. A statement appears on her and Harry's foundation website. It is personal, emotional, and devastating in its accusations. Meghan expresses shock and profound sadness at the palace's actions. She writes that she dedicated years to serving the monarchy with integrity, only to be rewarded with public humiliation based on false accusations. The statement categorically denies any financial wrongdoing. Meghan characterizes the offshore account as a legitimate business arrangement established with proper legal counsel for managing her pre-existing entertainment career assets. She claims the palace knew about these arrangements from the beginning. She suggests the timing of the accusations, years after she stepped back from royal duties, is suspicious and vindictive. Then comes the accusation that dominates headlines. Meghan states plainly that she believes these actions are motivated by bigotry. She writes that from the moment she entered the royal family as a woman of color, she faced different standards and harsher scrutiny. She suggests that white family members engaged in similar business arrangements without consequences. The investigation, she claims, is just an excuse to punish her. The statement announces that Meghan is consulting with legal counsel regarding potential defamation claims. She reserves the right to pursue all available remedies to clear her name. She frames herself as a victim of institutional bullying, a mother protecting her family from an organization that never truly accepted her. The response is brilliant from a public relations perspective. It shifts the narrative from Meghan's conduct to the palace's motives. It transforms a financial scandal into a racial justice issue. News outlets that had reported the title stripping now have to cover bigotry accusations with equal prominence. Within hours, celebrities speak out in Meghan's defense. American talk show hosts devote segments to discussing palace bigotry. Civil rights organizations issue statements expressing concern. Coverage in the United States turns sympathetic, portraying Meghan as a woman persecuted by an outdated, discriminatory institution. Meghan's lawyers release a separate statement threatening legal action if the palace releases evidence publicly. They argue that financial records are private and that publishing them would constitute harassment. Harry appears in a video message posted to social media, looking exhausted but defiant. He states that he stands completely behind his wife. He accuses his family of using the same tactics against Meghan that were used against his mother. He says he will not allow history to repeat itself. The palace faces exactly the nightmare they feared. Evidence of financial misconduct is being buried under accusations of bigotry. Meghan has positioned herself as a victim rather than someone facing legitimate questions. Public opinion in Britain remains divided, but international sympathy swings toward Meghan. The counterattack has landed with devastating effectiveness. But the palace had anticipated Meghan's counterattack. They had prepared for accusations of bigotry and persecution. And they had also prepared something else, evidence so concrete that it would speak for itself. 3 days after Meghan's statement, a major investigative journalist receives an anonymous package. Inside are documents carefully redacted to protect certain privacy concerns while revealing the essential facts. Bank statements showing the offshore account, corporate registration records proving the ownership chain, and transaction receipts with dates and amounts clearly visible. Most damning are email exchanges between Meghan and representatives of various media companies. The emails discuss specific payments in exchange for access to information about royal family activities. One email explicitly mentions providing details about a private family gathering in exchange for £25,000. Another discusses arranging exclusive photographs from a royal event in exchange for £15,000. The journalist verifies the documents through multiple independent sources. Financial experts confirm the bank statements are authentic, corporate lawyers verify the registration records match official government databases, and digital forensics specialists examine the email metadata and confirm they have not been fabricated or altered. The story publishes on a Sunday morning. It includes photographs of key documents with sensitive information blacked out, quotes from emails that show clear intent to monetize royal access, and traces money flows from entertainment companies to the offshore account with precision. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. Public reaction shifts immediately. People who defended Meghan as a victim of bigotry now confront documented proof of financial misconduct. The emails especially damage her credibility because they show calculated planning rather than innocent misunderstanding. They reveal someone deliberately profiting from a royal position while publicly claiming to be persecuted. Social media conversations change tone dramatically. Supporters who accused the palace of lying now struggle to explain the documented evidence. The bigotry accusation, while still raised by some, loses much of its power when confronted with Meghan's own words discussing payments for royal information. American media coverage becomes more nuanced. News outlets that initially supported Meghan begin questioning whether the palace's actions might have been justified. Talk show hosts who condemned the title stripping now acknowledge the evidence raises serious concerns. Meghan's legal team issues a brief statement claiming the documents were obtained illegally and that their release violates privacy laws, but the damage is done. The public has seen proof that contradicts her claims of innocence. The palace maintains official silence. They do not confirm or deny involvement in the leak. They simply allow the evidence to speak for itself. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. The truth has emerged, and it is exactly what the palace said it was from the beginning. Meghan monetized her royal position systematically and deliberately. The hidden bank account was not a legitimate business arrangement. It was evidence of betrayal.